For as long as I can remember and for the majority of my adult life, I've been on the road for multiple hours every day. Just like everyone else, I have places to go, people to meet, and things to do. But no matter how routine the drive feels, people lose their lives every day on these roads, and honestly, that thought has always unsettled me. So I made it a rule of mine when I first started driving to be as careful as possible when on the road. I follow the laws, pay attention to the signs, and never put speed over my safety and the safety of others. But on December 30th, 2024, I learned the harsh truth that no amount of caution matters when the strangers you share the road with decide they're going to kill you. My name is Andrew Hayes, and by the time the incident happened, I had been working as an Uber driver for about 4 years and saving up money to start my own business. That day started off as just another shift for me. I had dropped off a passenger named Blair and was on my way back to the next pickup when I noticed things started to get a little strange. It all started about 4 minutes into the drive when I came up behind a white RAV4 with a unique license plate that caught my attention and read, "In Hell." I stayed behind the same car on the road for the next 5 minutes when the car suddenly started moving frantically from left to right. Concerned, I slowed down and backed off a little, as I figured the driver was either having difficulties controlling the wheel or was drunk. After a while, the car went back to normal, and as I sped up to close the distance between us, the car stopped abruptly. I quickly hit my brakes, stopping just inches away, my heart in my mouth. My initial reaction was concern, as we were both stopped in the middle of oncoming traffic, and a part of me wanted to get down to check on the driver ahead and make sure they were all right. Before I made that mistake, however, the driver revealed his true intentions, and I immediately realized that I didn't need to be checking on him, but getting as far away as possible. The white car hit reverse in an attempt to crash into me, but I backed up and dialed the cops quickly. "Police, how may I help you today?" "Hello, police? Yes, someone's trying to back up into me on the highway." The officer began asking multiple questions as I tried to explain that the man was reversing towards me at high speeds, going the opposite way of traffic. As I was explaining, though, the car ahead stopped, and I put enough distance between us thinking he was going to go away. Sadly, I was wrong. I watched in horror as the driver turned his car around and slammed the accelerator and charged towards me head on. Nothing about what he was doing made any sense, so in panic, I explained what was happening to the police officer on the phone while backing away from the car and deeper into traffic. This didn't last very long, however, and soon enough, his car smashed into mine, and he began to steer me towards the bridge and into the other cars headed our way. After seeing car after car swerve past us and missing me by just an inch, a part of me accepted the fact that I was going to die that morning. Even though I could hear the police officer asking questions in the background, my mind wasn't there, and I found myself constantly asking why this person was doing what he was doing. Eventually, however, I snapped back into reality as the officer said, "Sir, I'm going to need you to answer me if you want to stay alive. Can you confirm where you are for me?" At that point, I realized they already had officers on the way, and all I needed to do was buy some time for them to arrive. I began looking around frantically, trying to figure out what to do when I noticed we were now very close to the side of the bridge. If we crashed into that, he wouldn't be able to steer me out using his car. I knew it was a crazy attempt, but it was also the only plan I had at the time. So I grabbed the wheel, backed away to give myself a little leverage from him, and turned, slamming into the side of the bridge. Once I did that, my car stopped moving back as expected, and the other car was now at my side instead of in front, giving me the first opportunity to look at the face of the maniac behind the wheel. The woman I saw across from me was a brunette in her late 40s, with tattoos all over her face, screaming at me. My eyes stayed fixed on her as she screamed and cursed at me while spitting and foaming at the mouth. She looked rabid, like a dog, and during all this, I screamed and panicked. But the moment I saw the space in front of me open up a little, I hit the gas and began speeding towards the police station downtown, forgetting all other safety precautions I thought I would always have. My foot remained on the gas as I sped down the highway and explained what was happening to the officer on call. This was when I glanced in my side mirror to see the white RAV4 barreling towards me still, and my heart pounded out my chest. I knew this was the final stretch of madness, and if she caught up to me, I was dead. In about 3 minutes, I was off the highway and in downtown Ontario. I felt a sudden sense of calm, as I knew this had increased my chances of survival by a lot. But just as I was about to let out a sigh of relief, my whole body jolted forward from the force of her car smashing into mine. My head slammed into the dashboard just as the airbag exploded into my chest, forcing the breath out of me. My vision blurred as the car spun out of control. Tires screeched against the slick pavement, and before I could even process what was happening, I was in the air, and my vehicle flew straight through the front of a McDonald's. I heard and felt glass shatter, and the last thing I remember were screams as tables and chairs flew in every direction. After that, it all faded, and all that was left were the blaring sounds of distant sirens coming towards the chaos. In the weeks that followed, I went through both mental and physical therapy, as I had lost some function in my legs after the incident. The crazed driver was a woman named Sasha Barton, an ex-convict with no real reason for doing what she did other than crazy theories like I had been following her and stalking her for weeks. Truth is, I had never seen that woman a day in my life before the incident, but I've been carrying her around ever since, as well as the other 2 casualties from the McDonald's incident that I'll never stop feeling responsible for. Sasha was sentenced to life in prison, and although it's just been a couple of months since, I don't think I'll ever forget that afternoon on the highway. So I hope you take this as a warning and remember that everyday trips, visits to friends, and quick grocery runs feel routine. But the roads you trust are shared with strangers who can change your life in an instant. I was careful. I followed the rules. It didn't matter. Remember the next time you drive, because one day, a stranger might decide your fate, like Sasha decided mine. This story is partially based on real events and footage that occurred on Highway 11 in northern Ontario on December 30th, 2024. The event was taken down as an extreme case of road rage, as a man attacked his victim for no apparent reason, slamming into him multiple times before proceeding to chase him through the highway traffic and running him off the road. This case should be taken as a reminder of just how volatile strangers on the road can be, and a grieving reminder that you can prepare for it all, but not for situations like these.
I am James, a regular guy with a family that means everything to me. My wife Helen and our children Lucas and Sarah joined me for a simple road trip away from our everyday routine. We planned nothing more than a quiet day on the road, expecting nothing unusual. We left the city on a busy highway, the radio playing our favorite tunes while we discussed daily plans. A roadside marked scenic shortcut. We agreed it was a harmless detour. We followed the sign without a second thought, confident it would add a pleasant twist to our journey. The shortcut soon revealed itself as a narrow lane diverging sharply from the highway. The car maintained a steady pace while we trusted the road to guide us safely. Our conversation remained light and practical, focused solely on driving ahead without any hint of harm. As we progressed, the surrounding grew isolated, and familiar markers vanished. We saw no other vehicles, and the landscape felt void of human presence. Unaware of what may lay ahead, we pressed on. Delivering the turn would simply lead us to a quieter route. The road surface turned rough and uneven. The car's performance began to falter. I noticed the engine straining as we patched the broken asphalt. Helen checked the dashboard, while I concentrated on maintaining control, aware that the situation was worsening faster than expected. There were no streetlights or clear signs of life, only abandoned vehicles and faded road markers. Lucas asked about nearby help, but my brief reply confirmed we were too far from any town. The absence of familiar surroundings made our progress feel increasingly unsafe. The route twisted in confusing directions, leading to dead ends and narrow paths. Each unexpected turn forced us to confront the possibility that this detour was more dangerous than it appeared. The quiet outside grew heavier as we realized we were isolated in a place that offered little reassurance. Unexpectedly, the car began to shudder and lose power. I pulled over and switched off the engine to inspect the problem. With Helen and the kids waiting inside, I opened the hood, feeling the weight of an unfolding crisis. After a brief inspection, I decided that staying in the car was too risky. I grabbed our emergency kit and signaled Helen to keep everyone close as we stepped out onto the uneven ground. The chill in the air matched the gravity of our situation, and we moved as one unit. A sudden rustle among nearby trees caught my attention. Several figures emerged from the darkness, moving towards us. Their approach left for no debate. It was clear we were no longer alone. Every step we took heightened the urgency to our escape. We quickly abandoned the car, sprinting down the narrow path away from the stranded vehicle. Helen clutched the children tightly as I led them over the rocky terrain, each footfall echoing the quiet night. Our efforts to run were the only chance we had against these strangers. The sound of heavy footsteps kept pace with our desperate flight. The attackers moved with relentless drive, narrowing the gap with every stride. The clear determination in their movement left us with undeniable reality of the threat chasing us down. While running, the group split into smaller units to surround us from different angles. I steered us into a small trail lined with dense bushes, hoping to create confusion. Every twist and turn was critical as the pursuers closed in without a pause. The uneven ground made our escape even more challenging, and Helen struggled to keep up as she held the children close. Each step was a test of our endurance, and the sound of our frantic breathing mingled with the pounding footsteps behind us. We pushed forward with a single goal: survival. At one point, one of the attackers tripped. I took the moment to alter our course sharply, trusting that the sudden change would buy us a few seconds. The tension in our group began to grow. With each rapid decision, every detail mattered to our escape. The relentless pursuit did not waver as we pressed deeper into the unknown. My heart pounded with each step while I calculated our next move. The distance between us and danger lessened with every moment, making each decision a vital part of our survival. Reaching a fork in the trail, I made a split-second decision that could mean life or death. I directed Helen and Sarah into a narrow path while I instructed Lucas to create a diversion on the other route. The risk was enormous, but we needed to break the attackers' unity to have a chance to escape. I led the smaller group through a tight passage between large boulders, the sound of shuffling feet and harsh breathing echoing around us. Every movement felt raw and urgent, with each step marking the desperate attempt to outrun our pursuers. The narrow escape route was our only hope in that moment. Simultaneously, Lucas's diversion delayed one of the attackers for a crucial few seconds. That brief interruption allowed us to gain some distance and recede to our own path. The relentless pressure of the chase made every second feel stretched, and our movements were calculated risks. After what seemed like endless moments of running, we regrouped in a small clearing. Exhaustion mixed with determination as we prepared to continue, aware that the attackers still loomed nearby. We eventually reached an old abandoned warehouse that offered promise of a temporary shelter. Its worn interior and broken windows did little to inspire confidence, but it was our only refuge. I led my family inside, barricading the door with heavy crates. Inside the warehouse, the silence was broken by distant shouts and pawing footsteps. I organized a quick search for anything helpful, while me and Helen secured a small room in the back. The children were kept in a corner. Their quiet presence was a reminder of what we fought for. Our makeshift barricade held as the attackers finally forced their way inside. The ensuing struggle was raw and unyielding. Every movement, every crash, was a fight for our lives. The attackers were caught off guard and gave us long enough time to seize a narrow side exit. We escaped into the dark night along a deserted path, the sound of chaos fading behind us. A patrol car appeared on the main road, and the attackers retreated at the sight of the car. The terror of the chase had just begun to calm down, as relief mixed with the shock of what we just endured. In the days that followed, our lives settled into a fragile routine marked by silent understanding. I recover every detail of that night, not to relive the horror, but to ensure we remember the dark reality of survival. The experience was etched into my mind. Local authorities investigated the incident thoroughly, and our experience served as a great reminder to others about the risks of unknown paths. The details of that night, The rough terrain, the reckless attackers, became a cautious tale to our community. There was no lies, only the truth. The physical wounds healed with time, but the memory of the terror remained clear. My family grew closer through the shared struggle. Each day is a quiet testament of our strength. We learned that survival depends on every small decision we made under pressure, and that one single wrong turn can change everything. Looking back, I know that turn we took led us into a nightmare that tested every ounce of us. There was no dramatic revelation or poetic justice, only the harsh, unfiltered reality of the night we spent fighting for our lives. The experience continues to remind me that even ordinary decisions can plunge into an extraordinary terror.
I was loading my groceries into my worn-out van on an otherwise ordinary afternoon. I had followed this routine for years, handling cans and bags with a steady, unremarkable rhythm. The van's interior smelled faintly of diesel and old fabric, a reminder of countless similar days. I had no inkling that this day would soon twist into something far beyond the mundane. I had parked near a quiet highway, where the sun was beginning its descent behind distant buildings. The routine of unloading my groceries and preparing for the drive home filled my thoughts as I methodically arranged the items in the back. Every movement was deliberate, practiced over many years. The simplicity of the scene made it hard to imagine any interruption to my day. Outside, the highway stretched into the distance, empty and silent, its asphalt gleaming under the fading light. I was accustomed to the solitude of these moments, enjoying the familiar comfort of routine. There was nothing dramatic about the setting. It was just another step in a long line of ordinary errands. I trusted that nothing would disrupt the normal pace of life. As I closed the van door and settled behind the wheel, I felt no apprehension or forewarning. I simply prepared to start the engine and merge onto the highway, unaware that the next moments would shatter the quiet predictability of my day. The calm of that afternoon shattered when a man suddenly forced his way into the van. In an instant, the normalcy of my routine was replaced by a stark, raw threat. A cold weapon was thrust in my direction, and I was compelled to comply without question. The sudden presence of danger stripped away any remnants of the safe, predictable life I had known. My world narrowed to the immediate need to obey the intruder's orders. The man's purpose was clear, even without words. His actions left no room for hesitation. I realized that I was now part of a plan that was unfolding far beyond my control. My hands, which had just moments ago been arranging groceries, now gripped the steering wheel under duress. As I pulled away from the parking area and merged onto the highway, the harsh reality of my situation became undeniable. I could see in the distance the flashing lights of police vehicles, evidence of a broader chase that had intersected with my life. It was clear that the intruder was not acting alone, and that his presence was a direct result of his desperate need to escape a situation far more dangerous than a simple robbery. Every second on the road felt like an eternity as I processed the gravity of my predicament. I was trapped in my own van, forced to navigate a high-speed chase alongside a man whose life and likely his crimes were unraveling in real time. The weight of fear and uncertainty pressed in, leaving no space for anything but survival. With the engine roaring and tires gripping the asphalt, the van sped onto the highway under the control of my captor. The vehicle jolted and strained against the force of sudden acceleration, and every bump in the road magnified the peril we were in. I struggled to manage the steering wheel while my captor focused solely on evading the police tailing us. The cacophony of sirens and the relentless hum of the engine blended into a single horrifying note. The highway quickly morphed into a high-speed gauntlet. I fought to keep the van steady as the intruder pushed me to take sharp turns and accelerate beyond my limits. The pursuit was unforgiving, forcing the vehicle to weave dangerously among speeding cars and oncoming traffic. Every maneuver was calculated to maintain distance from the police, yet each twist of the wheel threatened to tear the old van apart. As we raced along, the surroundings became a blur of concrete and fleeting light. The flashing blue and red signals from police cars loomed larger in the rearview mirror, a constant reminder that capture was imminent if we faltered. I focused on the mechanics of driving, each movement precise yet filled with anxiety. The chaos of the chase demanded my complete attention, leaving no room for the calm I had once known. The situation escalated with every passing mile as the vehicle careened through busy intersections and narrow stretches of road. The intruder's actions were unyielding and forceful, and my ability to respond was stretched thin by both fear and the physical limitations of my age. I was caught in a relentless race, where every second felt like a fight against both time and fate. The chase intensified as we plunged deeper into the network of highways, the van relentlessly barreling through lanes and over curves. My captor's control was absolute, his focus on evading the police manifesting in abrupt maneuvers that left little margin for error. The vehicle thrashed over uneven pavement and sudden obstacles. The entire experience was marked by a constant gnawing sense of impending disaster. I felt every jolt of the vehicle as we swerved around obstacles and dodged other cars. The high-speed pursuit was a blur of rapid decisions and split-second reactions. The police vehicles, persistent and numerous, pressed us from behind, their sirens growing ever louder and more insistent. Every shift of the van was a desperate attempt to keep the situation from spiraling completely out of control. The confined space of the van amplified every detail. The screech of tires, the clatter of loose items in the back, and the heavy thud of the engine under strain. I could feel the raw tension in every muscle as the chase pushed me to the limits of endurance. There was no time to think beyond the simple need to keep the vehicle moving, avoiding the collision that could end everything. The relentless pursuit left little space for error, and every decision carried the risk of disaster. The road was unforgiving, with every twist drawing us closer to the edge of chaos. The blend of fear and raw mechanical power created a scenario where survival depended solely on following the harsh commands that controlled our every move. The highway transformed into a corridor of danger as police cars began to close in from all directions. The van rattled violently with each sudden turn and harsh braking, forcing my aging body to react faster than it was meant to. The pursuit reached a fever pitch as the chaos of the road intensified, with every element conspiring to amplify the terror of the moment. I was caught in a relentless struggle against forces far beyond my control. Every impact and jolt reinforced the brutal reality of the chase. The environment became a constant assault of sound and movement, as engines roared and metal clashed in the desperate bid to escape capture. The van's interior bore the physical scars of our frantic journey, each shift and swerve a stark reminder of my vulnerability. The pressure built as our path twisted through congested roadways and tight corners. Each maneuver was a desperate attempt to outpace the pursuing police, while the fragile van teetered on the edge of collapse. The intensity of the situation left little room for thought, reducing every moment to instinctive reactions driven by the singular need to survive. The high-speed chaos was no longer merely an escape. It had become a brutal contest of survival. Every split-second decision was fraught with risk, and each near miss with oncoming traffic or obstacles drove home the razor-thin margin between life and disaster. As we approached a busy highway exit, the intensity of the pursuit began to shift. The formation of police vehicles faltered on the less crowded exit ramp, and the distance between our van and the pursuers slowly widened. My captor's frustration was evident in his aggressive handling, each maneuver reflecting a mix of desperation and calculated risk. The tension that had defined the chase began to show signs of release. On that critical exit ramp, the van's erratic movement reached a breaking point. The vehicle slowed unexpectedly as the captor's impatience grew with every stumble in our driving. In a decisive act of recklessness, he abruptly ejected me from the van. The impact with the asphalt was harsh and disorienting, yet it marked the movement when the relentless pursuit lost its grip. As the police lost formation in the confusion, the van sped away into the maze of local roads, leaving behind the remnants of a high-speed nightmare. Weeks have passed since that harrowing ordeal. I eventually learned that the man who commandeered my van was apprehended, but the brutal reality of that day remains etched in my memory, a constant reminder of how quickly ordinary life can collapse into chaos. Now, I live with the unmistakable mark of that highway, knowing that survival hinged on a moment of ruthless chance. The experience stands as a stark lesson in vulnerability, where the veneer of normalcy can shatter in an instant, revealing a raw world of unforgiving terror.